Okay. Taking it for granted that, okay. So the Lord says that Brahman, although one without a second, has various manifestations and features. Brahman has various manifestations and features, especially for the impersonalists. The Akshara or Omkara, the syllable Om, is identical with Brahman. For the impersonalists, Om is identical with Brahman. Krishna here explains the impersonal Brahman into which the renounced order of sages enter. So sannyasis enter into Brahman. This is the Mayavad sannyasis or Nirakara. Mayavad sannyasis don't enter. Nirakara, who are behind Nirakara, who are behind Brahman, they enter into Brahman. In the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to vibrate Om and learn of the ultimate impersonal Brahman by living with the spiritual master in complete celibacy. In this way, they realize two of Brahman's features. This practice is very essential for the student's advancement in spiritual life. But at the moment, such brahmachari, unmarried celibate life is not at all possible. The social construction of the world has changed so much that there is no possibility of one's practicing celibacy from the beginning of student life. Throughout the world, there are many institutions for different departments of knowledge, but there is no recognized institution where students can be educated in brahmachari principles. Unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced, according to scriptural injunctions of this, for this age of Kali, that in this age, no process of realizing the Supreme is possible except the chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna. Even if one is chanting Hare Krishna, still one has to practice celibacy. Celibacy is the basic principle. While one of the four regulative principles is illicit sex, but actually it is said that even a physical relationship with one's wife has to be only for begetting children, and there's no question of using contraceptives, etc. So literally the whole modern civilization is not fit for spiritual life because they don't follow this. And that is the reason this is a regulative principle. That means it's a foundation, very basic. If somebody is not able to follow this, then they should not come into take initiation and all that. They can generally be chanting Hare Krishna till they become purified, till they are able to control their base. These are base instincts, animal instincts. They should be able to control. Then they can come to the stage of initiation. Okay, but this celibacy is absolutely required, whether for a brahmachari or for a grihastha. Yeah, and also it is said in the Shastra that even for grihasthas, interaction with other women should be bare minimum, only as much as required. No, casual joking, talking, making general conversation and all that. Only very, very specific, connected to devotional service, and no prajalpa, no nonsense. So this is very important. One has to follow these principles, otherwise it's very difficult. It can get difficult. Because actually Shastra says that man is like fire or man is like one of them, butter and fire. So there should be very restricted interaction between men and women. And just brahmacha sannyasis, actually they don't even directly come in contact with women as much as possible. So this is important.
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yeah.
It is mentioned that those who maintain celibacy, they realize Brahman's two features, right? So is it Brahman and Paramatma?
No. Brahman's two features, it's not very clear what it is. Because Brahman is Sat. I'm not very clear what it is. You'll have to check with somebody.
Okay, bro. Yeah.
8.12 Sarvadvarani samyamya manohridi nirudhya cha murdnadhayatmana pranam astito yoga dharanam. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements. Yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements. Closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head, one establishes himself in yoga. So leaving the Ashtanga yoga part, the first part is true for Bhakti yoga also. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, and we close doors by engaging all our senses in Krishna's service. The practice of yoga as suggested here, one first has to practice yoga as suggested here, one first has to close doors of sense enjoyment. This practice is called Pratyahara, or withdrawing the senses from sense objects. The sense organs for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch, should be fully controlled and should not be allowed to engage in sense gratification. In this way, the mind focuses on the super soul in the heart, and the life force is raised to the top of the head. In the 6th chapter, this process is described in detail, but as mentioned before, this practice is not practical in this age. The best process is Krishna consciousness. If one is always able to fix his mind on Krishna in devotional service, it is very easy for him to remain in an undisturbed transcendental trance or in samadhi. If one is able to fix his mind on Krishna always. So this is a very tall order. It's a tall ask. But still the process of bhakti is easier because one engages senses directly in the service of the Lord. So the senses become purified. So there is no difficulty really in controlling the senses. But sometimes it might take some time for us to be able to control all our senses as per our desire because of long conditioning. But Bhakti Yoga process is so powerful that within a very short time, one can actually come to that stage of controlling automatically all senses get controlled, because the more the senses are engaged in the service of Krishna, the more they come under control. It's a very easy thing to understand. So that is why solution is engage in Bhakti as much as possible, engage in devotional service. The more we engage in material things, the more it becomes difficult, because we are giving opportunity for the senses to engage in non-bhakti activities, which means that they are becoming contaminated again. They are being exposed to contamination. So as much as possible, we should engage our senses in the service of Krishna. And they become purified, and automatically they give up lower engagement. Okay. (8.13) Omityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Yaprayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. It is clearly stated here that Om, Brahman, and Lord Krishna are not different. The impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. The chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is clearly recommended for this stage. So if one quits his body at the end of life, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he certainly reaches one of the spiritual planets according to the mode of his practice. Mode of his practice means depends on which form of the Lord is attracted to. The devotees of Krishna enter Krishna planet, Goloka Vrindavana. For the personalists, there are innumerable other planets known as Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, whereas the impersonalists remain in the Brahma Jyoti. So all we have to do is simply chant Hare Krishna. Of course, being able to chant Hare Krishna at the end of the life again is a big ask. Very closely seen and seeing aged parents, and it practically looks impossible. So the solution is that one engages in devotion as much as possible when the body is fit, and then hope and pray that Krishna will be merciful to make us remember him at the time of death. Because practically we trying to do any of this is literally impossible. I mean, even just today itself, if suppose say we have in today's condition, if we have some health problems, if we find it so difficult to concentrate on Krishna. So what will happen at death? He only knows. So we should practice devotion when we are fit and then depend on him.
True, it is mentioned that personalists reach one of the spiritual planets.
Hmm.
So, but this whoever chants Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is calling out for internal potency of the Lord, which is Srimati Radharani.
No, not Srimati Radharani alone. I mean, for Rama it is Sita, for Narayana it is Lakshmi. That is the internal potency.
But we chant this Mahamantra to call out Hara, right? Hara is the...
Not necessary.
Or not necessary.
Not necessary. This is an all-encompassing name. You can use the same name if somebody wants to achieve Rama and Sita. If somebody wants to achieve Vaikuntha also, they can call the same names. It's all-encompassing. It depends on our Ishtadevata. Whoever we want to achieve, we will achieve with this mantra.
Okay. And whoever goes to Vaikuntha planets, if they desire to meet Krishna, is it allowed that they can also go to these planets? So interplanetary travel in Vaikuntha, is it possibility?
Travel is not an issue, but generally it is not like us, dissatisfied souls who want to go from one place to another. Those in Vaikuntha are completely satisfied with their service to Lord Narayana. So they are not like really, they don't have time to think about anything else. And like, for example, I mean, Hanuman, he knows that he wants Rama. He's not interested in going and serving Narayana or Krishna for that matter. So this Varupa is such that this is what we actually completely desire. But technically it is said that if one wants to, he can go. Like for example, Narada Muni wanted to see Krishna. So he came to Dwarka. Then he wanted to be part of Ras Leela. So Vrunda Devi helped him. He became Gopi called Naradi. So like this, but most devotees are happy in Vaikuntha doing their services. If they want, they can go, but it's generally very special condition for somebody who is in Vaikuntha who would want to go to Krishna Loka.
Okay, so based on our Swarupa, Krishna will give us that desire to be attached to one form of the Supreme Lord.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, 8.14. There's no current here, so anyway, hopefully it won't affect the display. Ananyacheta satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginah. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pratha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So for one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. So we have to remember Krishna without deviation. For such people, he is very easy to obtain because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So always remembering Krishna without deviation, how is it possible? Only by chanting Hare Krishna. This verse especially describes the final destination attained by the unalloyed devotees who serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhakti Yoga. Previous verses have mentioned 4 different kinds of devotees: the distressed, the inquisitive, those who seek material gain, and the speculative philosophers. Different processes of liberation have also been described: Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga. The principles of these yoga systems have some bhakti added, but this verse particularly mentions pure Bhakti Yoga, without any mixture of Gnana, Karma and Hatha. As indicated by the word Ananya Chetaha, in pure Bhakti Yoga, the devotee desires nothing but Krishna. A pure devotee does not desire promotion to heavenly planets, nor does he seek oneness with the Brahma Jyoti or salvation or liberation from material entanglement. A pure devotee does not desire anything. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pure devotee is called Nishkama, which means he has no desire for self-interest. Perfect peace belongs to him alone, not to them who strive for personal gain. Whereas a Gnana Yogi, Karma Yogi or Hatha Yogi has his own selfish interest. So though there is yoga involved, it is still selfish because the focus is on Gnana, Karma, Hatha. Without yoga, they don't achieve perfection in what they're doing. So they have to add yoga to their practice. But still their focus is their own selfish interest, because only in Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti is the interest. Bhakti means Krishna or Vishnu. But in Gnana, they are interested in Brahman. In Karma, they are interested in Karma. In Hatha, they are interested in achieving some planet. But they are all selfish interests. Perfect devotee has no desire other than to please the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Lord says that for anyone who is unflinchingly devoted to him, he is easy to obtain. Unflinchingly means undeviated. A pure devotee always engages in devotional service to Krishna in one of his various personal features. Krishna has various plenary expansions and incarnations such as Rama and Narasimha. And a devotee can choose to fix his mind in loving service to any of these transcendental forms of the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee meets with none of the problems that plague the practitioners of other yogas. Bhakti Yoga is very simple and pure and easy to perform. One can begin simply by chanting Hare Krishna. The Lord is merciful to all. But as we have already explained, he is especially inclined towards those who always serve him without deviation. The Lord helps such devotees in various ways, stated in the Vedas, Kathopanishad. Yam evaisha vrunute tena labhyas tasyaisha atma vivrunute tanum swam. One who is fully surrendered and engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord can understand the Supreme Lord as he is. And as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, the Lord gives such a devotee sufficient intelligence so that ultimately the devotee can attain him in his spiritual kingdom. The special qualification of the pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering time or space, place. That's very, very important. Without considering time, happiness, distress, pain, no pain, morning, night, there should be no impediments. You should just understand how much sadhana we have to do. You should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavan or some holy town where the Lord lived. But a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the atmosphere of Vrindavan by his devotional service. It was Sri Advaita who told Lord Chaitanya, wherever you are, O Lord, there is Vrindavana. As indicated by the word Satatam and Nitya Shaha, which mean always, regularly or every day. Okay. So we should understand this. There is a or. Nitya Shaha, Satatam actually means always. Okay, but then when we can't do always, then we say regularly. That means multiple times in a day. Then we say, okay, if multiple times in a day is also not possible, then we'll say at least every day. So doing every day chanting Hare Krishna is just the beginning. It has to come to Satatam, always. Pure devotee constantly remembers Krishna and meditates upon him. So if you have to meditate on Krishna, then we have to stop all material activities. We can't be engaged unless we reach stage of prema. But to reach stage of prema, we need to give up material activities. Otherwise, our practice will be imperfect. So at some point of time, everybody has to come to the stage of giving up material activities. These are qualifications of the pure devotee for whom the Lord is most easily attainable. Bhakti Yoga is the system that the Gita recommends above all others. Generally, the Bhakti Yogis are engaged in 5 different ways. Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. In any of these ways, the pure devotee is always constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord and cannot forget the Supreme Lord. And so for him, the Lord is easily attained. A pure devotee cannot forget. How many times Prabhupada is saying in this purport? Cannot forget for a moment. And similarly, the Supreme Lord cannot forget his pure devotee for a moment. This is the great blessing of the Krishna conscious process of chanting the Maha Mantra. So just see, we have to reach a stage where we cannot forget. Actually, in our current stage, we are thinking about Krishna, then our mind goes into material objects, material thoughts. But as we progress higher, like in Asakti, Ruchi and all, what will happen is we'll be thinking about material things. Suddenly we switch off from material things and we start thinking about Krishna. So reverse will happen, will start happening. So that is a amazing stage to reach. So we have to understand that we have a lot to achieve in bhakti. Achieve as in to do sadhana. But if we are simply stuck in material things, then it's going to become more and more, it's going to take more time, because bhakti yoga is extremely powerful. So there's no question of us not reaching the goal, but it just depends on how much time we are going to take. We might take one lifetime, we might take multiple lifetimes. So the more urgency we show, the faster we will achieve the goal. So without deviation. So this is the goal. This is our goal. This is possible only when we come to pure love. Till then, at least we should do nityashaha. We should practice devotional service as 24 hours a day without deviating ourselves to any other activity. Then we can think about these stages. Okay, any questions? No questions. Okay. 8.15 Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gatyaha. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Since this temporary material world is full of miseries of birth, death, old age and disease, naturally he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavana, does not wish to return. So for us to be convinced about this, we have to go through suffering. Only when we go through suffering ourselves do we realize that, okay, boss, enough is enough. I don't want to come back again. But if everything is going fine in our life, then if we don't experience the pain of this material world, then how will we be convinced not to come back? Then we might be thinking, no, maybe there is still something in this material world. So sufferings in our life is to just make us sure that we don't want to come back. The supreme planet is described in Vedic literature as Avyakta and Akshara and Paramagati. In other words, that planet is beyond our material vision. It is inexplicable, but it is the highest goal, the destination for the Mahatmas. The Mahatmas receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness. And so become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. This is again a very tall order. Not to be transferred to spiritual planet, but be here in the material world and do devotional service. Again, very high level of progress. They only want Krishna and Krishna's association and nothing else. That is the highest perfection of life. This verse specifically mentions the personalist devotees of the Supreme Lord Krishna. These devotees in Krishna consciousness achieve the highest perfection of life. In other words, they are the supreme souls. Okay, that's pretty clear. Any questions? No questions. These verses actually are amazing. 7th chapter tells us about Krishna, Krishna's position in this material world, spiritual world. But 8th chapter tells us what is the perfection, starts to tell what the perfection is. Will we go to the 12th chapter, inch by inch? You should understand one thing, that the topmost position is one of bliss. So if we reach there, then we will not want to come back. But to reach there is a lot of effort. one should be willing to put the effort. Because only then we can experience the result. But if somebody wants shortcut, easy way out, that's not possible. While this is the easiest path out amongst all processes, Bhakti Yoga is the easiest, but still it takes time, it takes effort, it takes determination. So we should understand and we should remain fixed, and that is the reason why devotee association is very important, because material life is not going to be very smooth all the time. Either our karma phala or Krishna's will, either way we will be faced with the difficulties, challenges, which we have to overcome. And to overcome that, we require association with devotees. That is why even this study session and all that, the attempt is to kind of help devotees to come together. Ideally, all of you should start knowing each other, interact with each other, etc. But I don't know, not very silent. Anyway, so the idea is that one should be engaged and in good association, engaged in devotion, pure devotional service, so that we can achieve that perfection in this life. Okay, so I'll end here.